Welcome in to the latest edition of the Stealing with the Boys podcast. I am your host, Junie Riddle, here along with my boys,
Juwan Williams,
Coach Campbell.
Fellas, I know it's been a few weeks, and to the viewers back at home, I know it's been a long time since you've seen us with scheduling conflicts, holidays,
Disappointment.
new babies,
Disappointment.
disappointment.
after disappointment.
Sad.
After disappointment.
I mean,
disappointment after disappointment. That's 5, right?
bottom line, it took us a while with things going on in our personal lives, and also, just trying to shake off what had happened at the end of the season. Steelers lose 5 straight, 4 in the regular season, and get absolutely curb stomped in the playoffs in Baltimore against the Ravens. Fellas, what went wrong for this team? If you had to pinpoint one real reason why this team fell off after being 10-3 and then finishing the season at 10-8, including the playoff game, what would be your prime reason? Juwan, I'll start with you.
I would say the lack of depth in the wide receiver room. It all started when Pickens went down. And when Pickens went down, we didn't have – in that 3-game stretch that he was down, we didn't have, no number one receiver. This is the thing that we, been questioning about, why we haven't made a move. And then we made a move for Mike Williams, and we don't really see him on the field because he'll get one long play, and we won't see him for the rest of the game. And I still don't understand that. So that's my biggest thing about it. That's what really started, because that injury with his hamstring, we didn't have no help. And we were banking on Russ to get us there, but that just wasn't the case.
And I'll just piggyback off that. I think it was coaching down the stretch. We hit that gauntlet. The Steelers did not look prepared for any of those teams, any of those top teams. Started with the Eagles, the Super Bowl champs, smoked us, and we didn't get any momentum back since that game. They just took the air out of our sails. We had no momentum after that game, and it's just I attribute this to just, I feel like coaching. Mike Tomlin's this big motivator and supposed to be this guy that just can get a team rallied around him, rally around the team, keep a team together. It just seemed like they had nothing in them. They didn't want to play half the time. On top of that, they just weren't prepared. Our offense had a great game against Cincinnati the first time and just didn't look anywhere near that the rest of the year. And like you said, it might be attributed to George Pickens going down, no depth there. Our run game wasn't what our run game usually is in December. We had no run game towards the end of the year, zero. It's just, I feel like it's, and not to mention our defense, our top defense, our defense that's supposed to have be great and played great in the beginning of the year. They were non-existent. Another thing is
too.
I don't like to come at this guy because he's just amazing, but TJ Watt didn't do anything at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we're used to seeing him be the savior at the end of the year, the guy that, turns it up at the end of the year and makes plays and helps us win games that we probably shouldn't win. And he was just non-existent. Alongside Alex Highsmith, man, our defense alone didn't do anything. With our offense the way it was playing, our defense had to show up. Defense didn't show up.
I just think, to piggyback off the TJ Watt, that's really, and you said coaching, that's really the coaching part of it. Because, if you see the games, there's no defensive scheme for TJ Watt that's changed all year. He stayed on one side.
Did you hear what Micah said? He said, I don't put TJ in my top 5 because he doesn't move around. He doesn't create mismatches, on a defense or on an offense where he can find mismatches. Micah said, Myles Garrett moves around. The top players, Max Crosby will move around.
But that should be coaching.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's coaching. I'm not putting that on TJ, but at the same time, it just didn't happen, and that's a part of coaching. That's why I attribute most of it to coaching.
I think with TJ in this respect has a lot to do with his lack of production in the final 5 games. Was that ankle tweak that he had in Philadelphia? I mean, you got to think in that Philadelphia game, he had 2 sacks, a forced fumble, almost had 2 forced fumbles, and he tweaks that ankle and he doesn't do a single thing the rest of the year. I think that had some to do with it. I don't think he was playing nowhere near 100%. I mean, every player by that time frame of the season was playing banged up. I just think it was a little bit more than him just being banged up. I think he was playing through injury, knowing that, to this point in his career, outside of the 17 year when he was a rookie, this was likely the best team and the most likely chance that they had to really go out there and win a playoff game. So with TJ, I'm not as gung-ho on blaming him because, I mean, I know I mentioned in this that we could blame one person. I mean, I could blame almost everyone. Like, everyone from top to bottom failed in the organization.
To lose 5 straight, man, we didn't do that since what? I think it was like in the 60s the last time the 80s?
The last time they lost 5 straight games and never had a lead, and all 5 losses were by double digits, was, I believe, 1969, the year before they drafted Joe Green.
That's bad.
Maybe it might have been Joe Green's rookie year.
That is bad.
So you're talking about before all the Super Bowls, Chuck Noll early in his tenure with the Steelers, like, this is a historic collapse. And so I'm going to start from the top. I mean, like you said, I agree. Tomlin, I have been a Tomlin defender. I have said on this podcast multiple times I will never doubt Mike Tomlin. But when you see the same thing over and over and over again, how can you not blame the guy at the head of the team? So I love Mike Tomlin. When Mike Tomlin's not the coach of the Steelers, I'm still going to have fond memories of Mike Tomlin. But sometimes things have just ran its course. Everybody brings up Andy Reid and the Eagles. I just think that the message is getting stale. The organization needs something new. I know they're not going to move off Tomlin, so it's almost a waste to even talk about it.
Yeah.
But he's got to do something. He's got to, move off of the control that he has in certain aspects on calling the defense or putting his input on the offense. Something's got to change. Quarterback position. I mean, Russ, the wheels just fell off. Yeah. I mean, I think you saw it in Hard Knocks. He either, shoots 3-pointers or layups. There's no in between. The Eagles were the first team to really expose that, and then every other team exposed that, and there was just nothing they could do on offense when Russ got figured out. And so after that, everything changed. The offensive line, we were starting 2 rookies, a second-year guy, something that we came into as a strength with a lot of depth. Simply, we lost a lot of guys along the way. The offensive line was a huge disappointment. Receivers, you already touched on that.
Our O-line, not to mention our O-line at the end of the year, both tackles gave up the most sacks in the NFL.
Also,
I would say Broderick had a good second half of the season. He had a much better second half of the season. But still, it's got to change. So on the defensive side.
Wait, before you get to defense. So Fire Move, did he show you that, why we paid him that money? Yeah.
I would say, I mean, maybe not the money we gave him, but he showed that he deserves to be he has the potential to be a top tight end.
When you're not using the middle of the field,
we're just not using it. We weren't using him. He was scoring touchdowns though. Towards the end of the year, if somebody scored a touchdown, it was 90% of the time it was Pat Freiermuth.
I mean, he had 4 games in a row he scored a touchdown, and I get it. He had a bad game against the Bengals. He fumbled against the Chiefs. There was a couple plays that he missed out on towards the end of the season, but all in all, I can't really blame a tight end when the offense doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field.
Yeah,
I just can't. So on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, Derrick Henry. Just dominated us those last 2 games that he played against us. The D-line has got to get better. Outside of Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt, I mean, it's just got to get better.
And what happened? We didn't use Benton this year, rarely.
Ogunjobi got more. I believe he got more snaps than Benton. That's got to change. I also don't think we have a true nose tackle on the team. We need a big.
Needs to move back out. Or move outside.
I feel like Benton is going to be more of a Cam Hayward position type of guy. So they got to really emphasize the D-line to fix that. And then the secondary. I mean, how many times were we talking about,
so good.
you know, they throw Minkah Fitzpatrick 30 yards off the ball, paying him all this money to make plays, and all he is just a safety valve to, you know, for the defense not to get the top blown off. Joey Porter Jr. took a step back. Cameron Sutton was god-awful. He's got to go.
I think part of the reason for that secondary collapse was when Cam Sutton got off of his suspension. Like, when Beanie was playing, right before they, like, stopped using Beanie, like, our secondary was actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you lose that chemistry, and Cam Sutton starts doing things. I'm just assuming they were talking about him, but him doing things off cue, not listening to, or not being where he's supposed to be, like
not knowing, which is just it's just
bad coaching,
baffling
man.
to me. It's just baffling to me. So it's a multitude. I mean, you could go on every single level. Inside linebackers too, I felt like struggled. It's almost every single position, and it was just like little things. And it's like you see this team with so much talent and think that they should be playing better, which they should, but you know, a lot of changes have to be made in the offseason. I know a lot of us were hoping that some coaching changes would be made. I know
that's not happening.
I know, you know, I don't know where you're at on Tomlin. Are you somebody that wants Tomlin to get fired?
No, I actually I'm glad you brought that up because I had a conversation after I seen the little billboard thing that came up with Tomlin, trade Tomlin or fire Rooney or sell the team, whatever. I was having a conversation with a guy, Steelers fan on Twitter or X, and I was basically saying that Tomlin is going to stay. Me personally, people just need to get over it. Like, Tomlin's going to stay until, like, he has his first losing season or he actually retires. He's going to be with the team. Like, that's, like...
I get that, but do you think that it's what's best for the team? Do you think Tomlin should stay in the exact role he's in a sense of, like, he has power over everything?
I think
he needs to give up power, is what I'm saying.
I was about to say,
he needs to just focus on the head coaching. He needs to find himself great coordinators and let the coordinators do the coaching.
Yeah.
This man doesn't have a coaching tree, man. Like,
you can be a head coach and a leader of men and divvy out the responsibility.
That's what he does well, though. That's what I'm saying, though. That's what he does well is, like, being the leader of men, but obviously him controlling the defense and controlling the offense, like, there's just at a point there's too much on somebody.
He can be the lead. You like how
I don't think there's anybody else in the NFL that, like, has control over that or can say, hey, we're making the offense super simple and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's not many coaches. Like, if you're a head coach, he's a defensive-minded head coach. I see him having some power over the defense. But for him to say stuff about the offense or, like, you know, trying to control play calling from the offense when Arthur Smith actually knows how to run an offense, I just don't get that. I think he needs to give up some power, man.
I agree with Junie when it comes to this. Like, he still needs to be the leader of this team, but he doesn't have to have his hand in everything.
Exactly.
He needs to, like how y'all said, he needs to let everybody do their job. I just feel like, another thing, I feel like we need to stop hiring in-house. I hate that. We have to stop doing that in-house stuff.
Especially when those guys don't go on to coach anything.
Yes, like
you don't see Matt Canada getting signed
18
anywhere.
Years. Who other than Brian Flores, who else has on his coaching tree has done something great?
And Brian Flores
Brian Flores really isn't his coaching tree.
He was here for a year.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a head coach before. My thing is like I look at like when we were actually competitive. You know, we had Bruce Arians as our OC. He went on to be a head coach and, you know, had some great offenses in his stops and wound up winning a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. And he was a great offensive coordinator, and Ben loved him. And you also had Dick LeBeau, legendary Hall of Fame defensive coordinator.
He inherited that one, but yeah.
Like when Tomlin came in, but again, it was still like the team before Tomlin came in was still 8-8. Yeah. Bill Cowher walked out, and you know they had a relapse after the first Super Bowl, and they needed a new voice. Cowher left because of personal reasons. His wife was really sick at the time, but all in all, the fact of the matter is that when Tomlin had elite all-time coordinators, with the talent on the team, we were successful. Now, bottom line is I think this team that we have now needs to get better. And so we can sit here and harp on Tomlin and certain players and this, that, and the other. But the Steelers just released Preston Smith the other day and freed up, what'd you say, about 10 more in cap
10 million.
space?
Yeah, now we're top 10 in the cap.
Saving 13. So bottom line is this team is going to have money to work with some restructures. I'm sure they're going to cut a few more people. I mean, I'd say roughly they can get their cap space to about 60, 70, maybe even 80 million if they really, really push for it. So there's some room to fix this team, and there's already a foundation of young players and veteran players that are already in place. So my thought process on this is that if they have an A-plus offseason, nail the draft, nail some free agents, and then you got to even think about this. How many there were 4 guys we drafted last year that, I mean, barely even touched the field. Fautanu only played in 1 game. You know, Roman Wilson played a few snaps in that Raiders game, and he didn't play the rest of the season. And then Watts and Lee, the late round guys, and you know how we've been with
hurt, right?
late round guys. I mean, Corey Trice was a 7th rounder, and he's a rotational piece. You want these guys to at least play and be depth and come in and contribute. This is 4 guys in a draft class that did nothing for us this year. And so if you can get, let's say, at least Fautanu and Roman Wilson to come in and do something next year, along with your rookies and your free agents this year, we can bounce back. We can bounce back, but it's got to be the right moves. So with all that saying, what are the moves that need to be made in order to get us back into contention?
The first one need to be just sign Justin Fields.
Can we all agree on that?
I mean, we have agreed on Justin Fields, yes. Yep.
I listen.
He's a young piece, and if it fails, then you have next year. There's quarterbacks that are coming out that we can draft.
Well, the contract I'll give him a 3-year contract worth probably around 40, 45. That third year team option.
Yeah, most of the time, the last year, or that's just rookie deals maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, you can definitely do something like that.
Yeah, I'm giving him a team.
I would say 3 years max.
You give me 2 years.
I'd put it like this. This with quarterback. Sign Justin Fields. He's young. He'd be cheap. He's got upside, right? I would sign him to a 2-year, 30 to 35 million. Overpay him a little bit, because if he goes into free agency, there are going to be other teams that really, really want him. Overpay him a little bit and front load the contract. Meaning you put most of the money in that first year, and in the second year he could be cut if need be. The reason is the 2026 draft not only is in Pittsburgh, but like Trey alluded to, there are a lot of good quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. It's going to be a quarterback draft. So signing Fields and saying, hey, we're going to give you the keys to the car, all 17 games. We're going to build this offseason around you, give you the tools, give you the equipment, everything. It is your team for this year. Go prove it to us. Go prove it. This is your prove it year, because people are already crawling up our backs. The draft is here, and we need to turn this ship around. We need to turn around quick, because guys in that building are panicking. Tomlin, he knows that the seat's hot. He knows it, because they re-signed him to 2027, and I promise you, if things don't change by then, by the time his contract's up, that's my time that I think that Tomlin is going to be truly done. If we don't win a playoff game or make a run or show some promise for the future in the next 2 seasons after this, I think that's the end of Tomlin, personally.